Welcome. This is the 12th in a series of videos on Paul's secondary missionary journey. This journey is recorded in Acts 15:36 through Acts 18:22. This is historical and geographical context. This video describes historical and geographical context for Greek exegesis of Acts or of the letters written by Paul to the churches visited during this time period. We turn today to Acts 18, 1 through 17, another description of being ahead of the mob, where Paul finally settles in Sin City, or Corinth. Corinth was known as some place where anything goes. Luke describes the journey to Corinth with these simple things. After these things, metatota, he left Athens and went to Corinth. Corinthion, so you still have these Antheon, Elon, Ellen, Ace, Corinthian. So you find that it's a simple statement that Paul left. There doesn't sound like a long journey. Let us look at this. There is less than perhaps 25 kilometers or so between Athens and Corinth. The road sort of wandered up the mountains and to Corinth. Now, Corinth sat in a very unique place. You notice the sea, Corinth is on one half of the sea, and there is another sea. And this isthmus of Sparta, Argos, Sidon, Patria, is connected just by that small land bridge. Well, by running goods through this, these goods did not have to travel around this and could really provide a good pathway. So Corinth made a lot of money by simply being a place where goods could transit. For example, look at this larger map of the sea path. You see you had Rome along to Syracuse, or you had the Appian Way to this Corinth, over here to Rhodes, to various places in Sidon, Tyre, or to Antioch, or back here to Cicerene, or to by going around you could go to Alexandria. It's quite it really, this portage at Corinth became extremely important to cut the distance, and in bad weather times it was extremely important not to go to the larger sea area. So let's look at the history of Corinth. What did Corinth do, and how might that have affected the discussions around Corinth? Well, in 750 to 657 BC, there was a king, and for a long while his descendants, probably close to 100 years, ruled. They ruled as a group. They created colonies in Sicily and Corfu. They helped create a place for these colonies, but the colonies rebelled. Later on, a tyrant, Ctesilas, had a treasure at Delphi, and he put this treasury at Delphi to take care of his treasure, and it sort of sets you into understanding how Delphi as a location became both an oracle and a trusted situation. His son Pyrlander took over and ruled for several years. And then after that, an oligarchy of 80 takes over to rule the city of Corinth in the area. About that time, there were the first athletic games in Isthmia, and Apollo's temple in Corinth was built, and we'll show that. After this time, probably about 100 years later, became the Peloponnesian Wars, where Athens fought against Corinth. In 2 wars, Athens was defeated. There were Corinthian wars where Sparta was versus Athens and Corinth and Argos and Thebes. So you can see that these Peloponnesian Wars and the Corinthian Wars drained Athens and drained Corinth of a lot of their wealth. Subsequently, Philip, who had instigated these wars, captured these cities under his rule. Now here's the Temple of Apollo. You can still see the columns raised gracefully with the mountain in the background. Now, if you look at Corinth, you notice there's the Corinthian Gulf. What did the city look like? Well, the Greek city was fairly significant with the Agro-Corinth, the high place, sort of up against the mountains. The city wall actually connected both farmland, which would be there to protect the very important road that went between the Corinthian Gulf and then went out of the city into the next. So the long wall actually protected a lot of things. The Roman city was much less. It was created later, and then the Forum was in the center of that one. This Legion Road, which we'll see, connected from the Gulf upward. After Philip conquers it, you then see Alexander Great controlling it, and then Alexander General split. And from 300 to about 273, the Hellenes rule, and Argonus rules Macedonia. Later on, the Achaean League moves, and Corinth joins the Achaean League, and the Achaean League in Macedonia fought against Rome in the First Macedonian War, but the Achaean League sides with Rome in the Second War. So when the Third War occurs, Corinth also is seen as part of the rebellion, and Rome sacks Corinth on the way to capture everything else. Again, here's the picture of how Antigonus had that area of Corinth. And you can see that you have Argos and Corinth and several things connected but away from Athens. And that the cities shrunk under it. Here's the Legion Road that comes from the Corinth port up into the city of Corinth. So you can see how the Roman road still contains, and that, again, off the main Roman road is where you would see the businesses or the various places. Corinth, about 100 AD, looked like the road would come in to the side, but you would have the agora off the road. As I mentioned, you can see the places where the business places, but there were some back from the main road since that was carrying a lot of the traffic to and from. You also had the Temple of Apollo, which you've seen in previous pictures, and you have the Lycian Way, which you can see the Lycian Way comes in from the seaport into the agora, and you have places out from the agora on the other side. Well, this particular place has something interesting. You have Hares, mentioned in the greeting at Rome in 623, actually has a paid-for part of the pavement, so his name is stamped in the pavement. At least we think this could be the same person. Again, here's the whole city from another view, looking down at the Corinth Bay. There's the Temple of Apollo. Now, there's one last thing that's interesting. The proconsul of Alcia's seat that Acts 18:12 says, but Galileo was proconsul, that is, of Achaea, The Jews made a united attack on Paul and brought him before the tribunal. They said, "This man is persuading people to worship God in ways that are contrary to the law." Just as Paul was about to speak, Galileo said to the Jews, "If it were a matter of crime or serious villainy, I would be justified in accepting the complaint of you Jews. But since it is a matter of words and names and your own laws, see it to yourself. I do not wish to be a judge." And he dismissed them from the tribunal, and all of them seized Sosthenes, the official of the synagogue, and beat him in front of the tribunal. But Galileo paid no attention to these things. This would be the place, the seat of judgment area, they believe, in the archaeology. Again, this Roman Forum was probably right there in the red square in the center by Lycian Way, which this picture showed. So the Agaparos, which is the high spot, is about 1,800 feet above the plain, and when you get there you can see further into the Gulf. I hope this pictures and ideas help you understand Corinth. On the other side was Cenchrea, which is the port that Paul took off from to go to Ephesus and then return. Well, that journey home we will cover in part 13 of this work. Thank you very much.